Hey there, YouTube. We're back. As you can see, I got the bike behind me, and as you can probably also tell, it's taken apart quite a bit because I needed to get the part out of here, which is this. There was the sub tank. Here's the old one. This is the one that came off the bike. I ordered a replacement because that shiny, gooey caramelized looking stuff you got there, that is varnished fuel, and it's on the outside of the tank. On a tank that's sealed, has no lid whatsoever. Once these hoses are on and that low fuel sensor's in there, it's completely sealed. So yeah, that's not good. That means rust holes. So I ordered this one. It's in pretty decent shape. It's got some surface rust on the outside where the paint came off close to the battery, which the battery rusted through the other one. So for this one to be in this kind of condition, that's great. I'm gonna clean it up, paint it and everything. So what we're doing is, this is also off like a 83, 84, I guess through 87 Shadow. It's old. It looks like it's been sitting around for a while too. So there's varnish in here. Not really any rust so much, but definitely some varnish. So I'm gonna have to clean that out of there because I don't want it getting all in the fuel filter, which is not that easy to get to. It usually hides up under here behind the coolant reservoir. So I don't want to have to deal with that other than periodic maintenance. I don't want to have to be revisiting the fuel filter every other time I ride it because it gets clogged up. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get, oh, and by the way, not a sponsor, but this stuff right here, this Rust-Oleum gel spray, I guess it's like navel jelly, but it's in a spray bottle, so it's a lot more convenient. And that stuff's working pretty good on taking the rust off of some chrome. And it took a lot of rust staining off of this and got me to the point where it's at now. And like with a steel wire brush and that spray, I mean, you can take some rust off pretty quick, even with it being cold outside. The directions say to use it when it's about 70 or above out, and it's in the 40s and it still works good. So I'm sure if I was using this when it was warm out, it would work a lot better. So to get at this, the reason why this bike's all taken apart is because I had to remove the rear fender. I had to take everything had to do with the seat off of it. I think you're actually, if I remember correctly, according to the manual, you're supposed to take the rear tire off. Well, what I did is I unbolted the exhaust so it could slide over, and then I unbolted the tire so that I could, I unbolted the shocks. I'm sorry, it's interrupted. But I unbolted the shocks so that the swing arm could drop down. It's on the center stand, which is very stable. I was actually pretty surprised. I've not had a bike with a center stand, but that is pretty nice. So I took all this stuff off here and dropped the rear tire down, sitting on the ground actually. And then this tank just kind of tilts back and comes out, sits on little rubber mounts. So that's why that's all the way apart. I cleaned out the air filter box. Went ahead and oiled the foam air filter, the replacement I got. So the air filter is done, which isn't really a big deal, but it still I needed to clean the box out, so I cleaned that out. Still waiting on diaphragms for the carbs, so I can put those back on. Got the cooling seals, which I'll be putting on. Put on all the coolant pipe seals, so I need to do that. But it's coming together, even though it's coming apart first. But just got a couple little things left to do, and this is one of them. I just want to have the fuel system really clean, so I don't have to deal with, all the. I just want to have the cooling system or the fuel system clean, so I don't have to deal with fuel-related issues, so that my freshly cleaned carburetors are going to work right, and I don't have trash clogging up my filters. So one thing I have to do is figure out how these low fuel sensors work. It's a negative temperature coefficient thermistor. It's not a, I had no idea how these sensors work, but apparently the Honda Magna V4 bikes used the same sensors or extremely similar. I think they're interchangeable. They are different lengths, so it might be different heights in this fuel tank. But I think I have one out of a Magna. I think this longer one here is a Magna sensor based on what I've seen. It looks like somebody might have put that in there. And then this is the one that was original to this bike, which is the shorter one. But there's a thermistor in here, and basically I think what happens is the fuel gets in here and it actually cools the thermistor. It cools the thermistor and it actually keeps current from passing through here and keeps the light off. And then once the fuel is not on this, it gets hot from the current passing through it and the light turns on. So I'm pretty sure that's how that works. I'm not 100% sure, but I don't think either one of the sensors works, so I'm going to have to fix those because buying new ones is expensive. Yeah, I'm going to go get a handful of sand and put it down in here. I'm going to duct tape all this up. I'm going to put, the reason I showed you this stuff is because I'm going to put some of this in the tank. I'm going to spray a little bit of that in there and put some water in here, and I'm going to shake it around. And that way any rust and any varnish and stuff gets out of there. We're going to have a clean tank. It's going to be about impossible for me to show you in this tank here. It's not in really bad shape. It's actually pretty good shape. You might just have to take my word for it. Yeah, I think you're just going to have to take my word for it. I don't have any way of giving you a picture in there. The walls aren't really coated with anything too bad. There's a little bit of like flaky varnish on there. I actually don't see any rust inside here. I just see the brown flaky varnish crust, which is not that hard to get rid of in comparison to rust, but just in case there's some in it, I'll use the rust dissolving gel, and that'll take care of that. So I'm gonna go seal the tank up, put some of that stuff in there and shake it around, and I'll show you what comes out when I'm done shaking it. Let you know what kind of results I get and about how long it takes. So I'll be back in a minute. Alright, so we're back. I shook this thing around probably 5 minutes or so. It might not be enough, but I'm going to go ahead and just leave it because it looks like anything that's on the sides is pretty solid. And I don't see, I mean, the parts that were already bare, they're really clean actually, so it's already done a decent amount of work. So I think I'm going to call that good enough for the time being, and it's not a huge ordeal to take this tank back out if I have to, so we'll just see what it does. But I'm going to dump it. We'll see what comes out of it. Oh yeah. Yeah, I'd say it's probably a little cleaner. Probably a little cleaner inside. Yeah, it smells like old fuel. Okay, so we'll flush this out with the water hose. It is very cold. Another reason I didn't want to shake it as long. Oh, I turned the water off. Yeah, it is really cold out. So using water is very painful actually. bottom here. Oh yeah, there's still some sand in here. We probably got it all out of there. I've just flushed a couple more times to make sure. According to that flow there, we may not have. That's good flow. And that's good flow. So, probably good. I don't think we have any more sand or any of these little dark specks here. That's stuff that it took out of the sides of the tank. So, I think this thing's probably pretty clean. And I am going to have a fuel filter on it, so sand isn't going to get past the filter. Let's see what we got. Yeah, that actually does look better. It's better than it did before. I'm going to leave that as is. I think that's going to work, so I'm going to reposition the camera, start working on these fuel hoses, and get this fuel system put back together. So, see you in a bit. Alright, so we're back. I wanted to go over a couple things about this fuel system. As I was saying before, I'm not planning on having to replace the filters a bunch of times, but this is going to sound kind of weird. I noticed this today at work. This is actually a fuel filter off of a lawnmower. 1/4 inch inlet and outlet. You know, note the size. Should have pretty good fuel flow because a large filter media inside. This is the factory filter on this bike. This is about $18. Yes, it costs more than most car fuel filters, and it's just an inline 1/4 inch inlet and outlet filter. I don't think there's anything special to it. I don't think it really flows, you know, anything crazy. So, at least until I know my fuel system is good and that I'm not going to have any problems with it, I'm going to run something like this. Unless it just doesn't flow enough and I starve for fuel, then I'll have to run something else. But I really don't want to spend $18 on an inline fuel filter. That's stupid. These are $3 or $4 filters. It just happens to be a specific size so it can snap into place on the air box. Well, interesting thing about that is, I believe, yeah, this one will sit right there in the same spot. It's not as tight of a fit, but it's not going to hurt it to have a little wiggle room. It doesn't snap in like the factory one does, but if I can get away with it, I'm going to run something like this for a while just to make sure my fuel system's clean. But I'll have to find the part number for that one and order it, because that's not a normal filter for us to use. But here's my fuel petcock, fuel shutoff here. It bolts in right here. I'm gonna have to. I'm a little bit concerned about these hoses, because the factory ones look like they might be molded, and I definitely don't have molded hoses. So kinking is a very large possibility here. But I guess I'm gonna go ahead and get out the bolts for this other battery box over here. Well, maybe not. I should probably clean up this battery box before I use it. Yeah, here's the battery box that comes out. It's actually not, it looks rough, but the rust will probably come off pretty easily. See if I can get these little rubber grommets out of here with any level of ease. They seem to be pretty pliable still, so that's good. I'm gonna pull all these out because actually the battery I'm using on this bike doesn't sit down in here anymore. I'm not using the T-shaped battery, so see if I can avoid stabbing myself in the hand. That would probably be ideal. Come on. It really doesn't want to come out. I might just leave these little battery bumper things out of here because I'm really not using them. This one's about petrified, I think. Unless the rust grew into it. That one's just going to be a pain. I'm going to cut my losses on that one. That one came out easy. And this little piece here, this is actually where the sub tank sits on. This caramelized old fuel is just nasty. Bad part is there's not much you can do about getting rid of it. I mean, you can get rid of it, but the chemicals most chemicals won't touch it. So I think acetone will, but I'm not entirely sure. Just from some reading, I believe acetone will do it. Oh, if I can get it to rotate, then I can peel it out. Saved it. Cool. So I'm going to spray this down with the acid. It doesn't really affect the rubber, so I'm not going to pull this little grommet piece off here. But I am going to see if maybe it'll attack this goo that I've got here. I'll go spray that on there, brush it on real quick. Alright, so that should take care of that for a while. Let that sit and do its thing. So, where's the reserve? There it is. I'm going to go ahead and slide this in. Actually, I'm going to... The inner fender actually sits down on these two tabs here, and it snaps into this tab here. Just going to make sure that these are popped out. And they're kind of bent in a little bit. Alright. Now let's slide it in. So I can kind of get a better idea of what I'm dealing with in terms of how to route these hoses. It's been a couple, you know, I pulled all this, I kind of just ripped all this apart yesterday. I don't quite remember how it all went together. Yep, that's what I want. So that tab, this tab here is not supposed to be bent this way. It's supposed to be bent at a 90 degree. So, I have to see if I can. There we go. That's where the turn signal flasher attaches to. Alright, let me get the bolt to put the tank in there. Alright, so that's in there. It's kind of sitting in its spot. Yep, so the main focus is to take care of the fuel situation underneath here. So I'm gonna have to consult my service manual, kind of see if I can get an idea of how this was all routed, because I really don't remember. Actually, now that I look at this, I do remember. Where's the petcock? So this comes out of the tank. It's kind of S-shaped. Comes out of the tank, and this goes into the back of the petcock. The reason I know that is because I actually pulled this little brass tube out when I was trying to pull this hose off, and I had to cut it because this hose is so hard. I actually had to slice the hose to get it off of there. So that comes out like that. So I just need to recreate this piece, and then the fuel filter goes in like that. That shouldn't be too bad. I might have to loop that down some more to keep it from kinking, or loop it over itself, kind of make like a P shape. Then it'll keep it from kinking. I think I've got enough room to do that. And then the straight piece just goes to the fuel pump, so that's easy. So I'm gonna go grab the fuel hose and see if I got some hose clamps here, some little spring clamps, and I'll be right back. Alright, so we got the lighting out because the sun goes down quick. So I've got this pack of hose clamps here. We'll have to get in there and figure out which ones are going to fit what we're working on. By the looks of it, I may not have enough. I don't know which size is actually 1/4 inch in here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I might have enough for at least the pre-pump, which is the more difficult stuff to get to, so that's fine. Let's see. I didn't bring my little shears over here to cut this fuel hose with, though. Now I am going to be using this silicone brake lube. There you go. Silicone brake lube, because This is a Japanese bike. It's not 1/4 inch anything. It's like 7 mm or 6 mm. Probably 7, because 7 is a little bit larger than 1/4. 6 would be smaller. This is all a really tight fit, so I don't have anywhere to get 7 mm hoses. That's not really a big deal. You just lube up what you're working on, it'll slide over. It'll be fine. I've had to do this before, so it's not my first rodeo as far as doing this kind of deal goes. So, and I'm not gonna go spend an arm and a leg on something that's like a 1/2 mm different when I can just push it on there. Go down to the local parts store and get 1/4 inch all day long. Actually, it's 3/16, so this is probably 6 mm. The hose I have is 3/16, so it's probably 6 mm fittings. 1/4 inch would be too big. As far as the leaks are concerned, it's better to be too small than too big in this particular instance. So let me go get my shears real quick. I'll be right back. Snip, snip. So what I'm going to do is start by comparing the old hose with the new hose. It probably sounds like a rap song, but it's not. And we're just going to make the length, and we'll see if it's capable of making the bend without kinking, which it is more than capable of making that bend, so that's good. And when I'm doing fuel hoses, I generally like to cut them a little bit longer because it doesn't usually pose a problem. So I'll cut like an extra, I'm going to cut an extra 3/4 inch or so on there. Gives me a little room to work with, makes it a little bit more flexible, and I don't have to worry about it not being long enough. And I'm going to go ahead and try to size up one of these hose clamps. Well, that's nice. I actually don't have spring clamps that would fit 3/16 hose. They're too small. So, not really sure what I'm going to do now. Well, might have to cut it short for lack of parts. Because I really don't want to have to come in here and do this twice. I don't want to have to pull this all apart and jump in here and do this. Well, you know what? I might as well go ahead and try to get some of this on here. Because that's going to go up and over the fuel filter. Yeah, see, I might have cut too much, and that's fine. I can trim a little bit off. That is okay. We'll find out in a minute how much I need to cut off. It's going to go up and over the fuel filter. I don't really have a way to get you guys in any closer to show you. I will show you this, because this will be easy to demonstrate. Basically what I'm going to do is take a little bit of this Sil Glide. I don't usually use this stuff on brakes, to be honest. I don't like, I like using the ceramic or the different kinds of, I guess this would work. I like using the purple higher temperature kind of brake grease versus this kind, but it works really good for rubber parts and doesn't deteriorate the rubber like a petroleum grease would. I would advise against using it on fuel related things, on stuff that has O2 sensors on it, because you can get silicone poisoning of your O2 sensors. That's not good. So it looks like my camera battery's running a little low, so we might have to cut this video off short anyway. Jay, you just smear some of that on there and it makes it go on real easy. But you can tell that was kind of a stretch fit. There's a bit of a bulge to the hose there, but it went on nicely. You just give a little twist. You can see why I don't want to do this more than once though, because they are a tight fit. I could probably get away with no hose clamps, but that just doesn't give me the same peace of mind as actually doing it right. But oh yeah, without the hose clamps I'm not going to be able to do much. So I'm going to make this a part 1 and go see if I can get some hose clamps. I'll go ahead and call this one a day because the camera's dying. I don't have the hose clamps I need. So we're going to call it a night on that one. Kind of stinks, but such is life. My videos have gone worse before, so yeah, just wait for part 2 to come up, and I'll be back probably a couple days. So see you next time.